Welcome back, guys, to Some Roads Lead There. Today we're going to be talking about self-doubt, negative forecasting, and my idea of not today. And really, I just came back from a walk, and funny thing was, I like to listen to music or podcasts on my walk, but I guess I forgot to check or charge my AirPod, and so pretty quickly into the walk I had no music or podcast to listen to. So ended up just doing a lot more thinking, and I actually like walking sometimes, or running or whatever, without some kind of an audio input, because then you do spend time thinking. Sometimes that's not desired. Sometimes you want to just get away from your thoughts, and that's when you really can appreciate like putting on some music or a podcast. But anyway, I definitely feel like this is a good relevant topic, because the idea of self-doubt, first of all, is quite universal to people, I believe, right? If I were to ask people, do they ever have self-doubt? Do they ever kind of become pessimistic or negative minded, and do the negative forecasting, like, oh, this bad thing's going to happen, that bad thing's going to happen. By the way, I'm not a Cubs fan, just in the basement, and I have lots of sports stuff in here, and but I do like Wrigley Field, and I would love to get there one day. Could talk about that, baseball stadiums and baseball stuff, another time. But so anyway, with the idea of self-doubt, I come at it from a couple different angles. I mean, the first is that I come at it right now from a personal perspective of my own, battle with negative forecasting and self-doubt, especially with what's coming up for myself with open heart surgery. So, that's an important perspective, my own, and also I come at it from a professional perspective. So, I've been a social worker my whole career. So, I'm 25 years into that field, and did a lot of interesting things in the field. Continue to, but most of my actual hours in the field are in two main areas of school social work and private practice. I'm not doing any private practice right now. I was 3 years plus within an agency, a group practice that I left last summer. And prior to that, I had my own practice for 7 years. And I continue to see clients, as needed. But right now I'm not really practicing, and which is fine. So I'm content to just be doing my school social work, my school counseling. But I come at it from that perspective too, because I've spent many hours working with clients, especially in a private setting, on this very issue of self-doubt. And we tackle it in a lot of different ways. There's a lot you could do with your thoughts, a lot you could do with your physical self. There's the cognitive behavioral approaches that therapists and psychologists take are, to me, very efficient, especially if you have a client that's really motivated. But what I will say is that almost all the time, without fail, people's negative thinking creeps back in, and so sometimes we have these bigger cognitive patterns that are really tricky to change. So we might be gung-ho this morning because we are, we just came off of an exercise routine, or we're eating well, and so we're feeling pretty good in that moment. But then, I know me personally as well, I'll put my own personal perspective in there, is that you start forecasting, the other shoe will drop, this isn't going to last, I'm just going to screw this up, I'm just going to gain the weight back, I'm going to blow off that marathon training, I'm going to fail this thing, or, the list goes on. It's, very individualized, of course, but our cognitive processes are just so intricate and sophisticated, And I can't help but think that there is a self-preservation aspect to it. Why we're inclined to go back towards that negative forecasting. I think there is a self-preservation aspect, and I don't profess to understand that completely. I think, we're complicated. So, but I've always said to my clients, you know what, if you have insight and awareness into your, your behaviors, whether they be, physical behaviors or whether they be, mental processes and thoughts, great. If you have those insights and awareness into, I guess you could say, what is bogging you down, great. But it is not a necessity for change. And I've always believed that because I think a lot of times clients get stuck there, and it's just do it. I think that's the one thing I try to get clients to get into is just the idea of go through the motions sometimes. That's good enough. Just getting up, having a plan, and with some simple objectives, and then attacking those objectives and moving forward, and making adjustments as necessary. But it's hard, and I think really what I came to today was I thought there's a piece missing. There's a piece missing, because today as I was walking, I had this self-doubt. I was thinking, man, this is like so far away from my goal of being healthy and wanting to do a marathon. Like, I'm doing it, but I'm gonna have to have this surgery, and then who knows, right? Maybe my cover will be slow and I'll give up on it, and and I'll just kind of blow off the marathon because I'll just be dealing with so many other things. And so those moments are easy, I think, to like just not follow through. Those are the moments where you say, maybe I just one more cup of coffee and some YouTube, and that's how you start blowing things off. And I think, the missing piece to not letting the negative forecasting, the self-doubt, that the negative self-talk, not letting that stuff get a foothold, I think the missing piece is the aspect of duration. So and that's where and what I mean by duration, I mean, what window are you evaluating when you're digging into your self-talk? Because if you're going to try to change that cognition of, if you've got that negative forecast of like, oh, this will never happen, and this will take years, and this will just be too difficult, and if you're trying to go in there and work with that whole landscape, this whole stretch of what you're, it's almost like you're throwing this big blanket of negative forecasting, this big blanket of self-doubt over this large expanse of your cognition, and to try to work on it there. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's kind of like, trying to, maybe if you're going to like rip up a carpet, and replace it, and you're, you're just trying, you're over on one end of the carpet, and you're trying to rip the whole thing off, and it's like, that's heavy. That carpet's heavy. That thing's not budging, like you're not really moving that. You're trying to move way too much. You're trying to change way too much. Maybe it's more simple to just start at that corner and just start rolling it up, and I think that's, dealing with the immediate, the very immediate present moment when you're challenging your self-talk, when you're working on your self-doubt, I think probably is a lot more effective. So I kind of remembered, for you Game of Thrones fans, when you have Arya getting trained in her fighting, and her teacher like knocks her down, and they have a little bit of banter, and basically he gives her this message of, what do you do with fear and death? And I'm probably completely butchering. If there's a Game of Thrones fan, like a legit Game of Thrones fan, I'm probably butchering the scene, but I'm just trying to capture the essence of it. But basically what the teacher is teaching Arya is that she's teaching her self-talk, It's like, what do we do with self-doubt? What do we do with fear? What do we do with death? Or we and his whole light and his whole thing to her was, you say to yourself, not today, not today. And so I really like that idea of that being maybe a part of that self-talk mantra, is it's not today. Like, I don't have to clear the table of my self-doubt. I don't have to clear the table of my negative forecasting. I just have to do it for today. So I'll meet tomorrow when I meet tomorrow, but I only have to do it for today. And a lot of times when you take stock of the moment, and that immediate future, that this morning, this afternoon, and you could start to either identify aspects of what you have planned for yourself as being evidence just to dispute that self-doubt, right? Hey, like, perfect example. I went through the motions today. I got the walk in. By the end of it, I was feeling good. I was working on this actual discussion in my mind. I was having this conversation with myself already. And I got my walk in, and I got a more positive mindset. Came in, ate a good breakfast, oatmeal with some blueberries, really good. And then, so if I'm looking at it like that, I feel like, I'm winning today. Do I feel self-doubt? Do I feel, am I negatively, I might sneeze. Am I dealing with negative self-talk right now? Do I have to deal with negative self-talk right now? No, not today. Not today. This is not the day that I'm going to get mired in self-doubt. And you do it for that moment, you do it for that day, and you enjoy that moment and enjoy that day. And that's really, it's a big trick. I mean, I tell you, you hear, it's the most cliched thing, right? Like, oh, one day at a time. And so, I think sometimes it just falls right off. It's like one of those things, it's so simple that it's almost hard to grasp. Sometimes simple things are like that, actually. I don't know why, but sometimes simple things are the hardest things to grasp. And, you can't live, 3 months into the future, and 6 months, and 9 months, and a year, and so on. So, you know what? I can't worry about that stuff right now, so. So anyway, it's a little bit of my, it's kind of funny because when you go through things, and even this process, thinking about how the whole thing, not being able to listen to my music or my podcast, and having to be with my own thoughts, and then, processing my own thoughts, and, it's a good thing. I mean, it's like one of those things, especially as a counselor. I think it's one of the interesting things. It's like one of those jobs where you get better with age, more or less. All things being equal, because of the, it's just, I sit down with somebody to talk at 50 years old. I mean, I've been working on this conversation for 50 years. I'm bringing it all into it, and they're bringing their whole life into it. So, so sometimes that experience really, really is helpful. But right now, I'm finding it helpful personally. And I hope this topic interests you. I think it's a relevant one. It's a good one, regardless of what I'm going through, the pandemic, the political landscape, all of it. There's a lot for everybody to just kind of deal with. And, maybe this approach can help people, your anxiety wants to go up, your mind wants to fret. Not today. Where are your objectives today? Do they align with positive and healthy goals? And let your self-talk, let your cognition tag along with that. And you only have to do it one. That's the magic of this. You only have to do it one day at a time, folks. Only one day. That's all you have to do. So, all right, guys. Peace.